You must have never imagined that the man in front of you has superpowers. He was specially recruited by the government to become a detective because of this ability. After joining the police force, he quickly rose to the top, achieving the highest crime-solving rate in the country. This made him a well-known super detective, amassing millions of fans. Even the cleaning lady at the police station was smitten with him, eager to set him up with her beautiful daughter. However, his aggressive methods in handling cases led to controversy. Footage of him beating criminals was exposed by journalists and heavily criticized by the media. As a result, he was brought before the disciplinary committee. To silence the media uproar, the leadership had no choice but to suspend him for 2 months. Just as Dongbai was preparing to go home and rest during his suspension, the cleaning lady who had wanted to introduce her daughter to him suddenly approached him. She knelt down and begged him to help find her daughter, who had disappeared on her way home the night before. The lady mentioned her daughter was well-behaved and never stayed out overnight, and the lack of any news was a sure sign something had happened. She pleaded desperately with Dongbai to help her. Despite being suspended and having no official capacity to investigate, Dongbai was moved by the memories of the lady and her daughter depending on each other. His colleagues advised against getting involved, warning that it could lead to his dismissal if discovered by their superiors. However, touched by the lady's plea and the memories he accessed, Dongbai decided to help find her daughter. When Dongbai and his partner arrived near the lady's house, they found that a serious crime unit had already started an investigation there. Among them was a colleague with whom Dongbai had a poor relationship. To steal information from his colleague, Dongbai approached under the guise of greeting him, intending to read his memories through a handshake. However, his attempt was thwarted by the unfriendly colleague. In an effort to access the information in their minds, Dongbai provoked and insulted him, calling him a 3-second man, a blow to his pride which led to a physical altercation. Through the blows he received, Dongbai accessed his colleague's memories. After obtaining the case details, Dongbai hurriedly left the scene. In the car, he urged his partner to drive to the hospital, revealing that from his colleague's memories, he learned that this was not a simple disappearance, but a serial murder case. 2 girls had already been killed, and there was a surviving victim being treated at the hospital. Now he needed to rush to the hospital to read the memories of the surviving girl to get information on the criminal and save the lady's daughter. Upon arriving, Dongbai donned protective gear and entered the girl's hospital room. However, when he used his powers to access her memories, he found them fragmented and unclear due to severe head trauma, which weakened her consciousness. Despite repeated attempts, Dongbai could only glimpse a hammer used in the attack and a red pig in the girl's memories. Armed with these 2 clues, Dongbai prepared to investigate further. But as he walked through the hospital hallway, he accidentally bumped into a man. Dongbai saw in the man's memory the scene of him beating the girl in the hospital ward. When the man turned around and saw the super detective, he started running. Dongbai chased after him, but lost him in a pedestrian street because there were too many people. Seeing this, Dongbai had no choice but to take off his coat and use his ultimate skill. He started to scan the memories of the pedestrians on the street, constantly touching passersby with his hands to trace the man's path. Finally, when he touched an elderly man, he found the direction in which the man had fled. Soon they caught the man, but when Dongbai placed his hand on the man again to read his memories, he discovered they had caught the wrong person. It turned out this man was just the ex-boyfriend of the girl in the hospital, who had been dumped by the girl 6 months ago. Feeling aggrieved, he had hit the girl. Then, Dongbai and his team refocused their efforts on finding the red pig. They searched through the city's markets and slaughterhouses, but all was in vain. So they shifted their focus to the breeding farms in the outskirts. After searching day and night, Dongbai finally spotted the place with the red pig logo from the girl's memory. This was definitely the most humane kidnapper in the world, who only threatened harm if you didn't score 90 on each test. The girl had been kidnapped because of her poor grades and was forced into this school. A girl from the class next door who had arrived earlier told her that if she didn't score 90 on the test the next day, she would be eliminated. So the girl studied desperately and prepared hard for the exam, but she hadn't finished the last question when the teacher collected her paper. After the test, the 2 girls exchanged thoughts and complained to each other, feeling they hadn't performed well. Both girls understood that one of them would surely die that day. All they could do now was wait for the results to be announced. When the girl saw her score, she barely passed with 90 points and finally breathed a sigh of relief. But the girl in the next room with long hair only scored 75 points. Just after seeing her score, the killer walked into the long-haired girl's room with a hammer. The long-haired girl cried out, "I scored 75 points. Because I didn't exceed 90, I still have to continue studying theology. Isn't it only those who don't study diligently who should die? I can memorize everything. I will try hard." In the end, the man still dragged the long-haired girl out. The man sprayed water on the girl with a water gun and then wiped her down with a mop. He wanted to clean the girl thoroughly before dealing with her. Hearing the constant cries of the long-haired girl, the girl who scored 90 was terrified. She didn't know if she would be that lucky next time. The girl looked up at the ceiling made of wooden planks, knowing that if she wanted to leave this world cleanly, she had to take matters into her own hands. So, she stood on a chair and turned a blanket into a rope to hang from the wooden plank on the ceiling. She wanted to leave this world with her last shred of dignity, but as she kicked away the chair and hung in the air, the wooden plank broke. The girl sat on the ground, wailing loudly. She didn't understand why fate was so cruel to her, not even giving her a chance to leave cleanly. But when she looked up at the ceiling, she discovered that she had pulled open a hole in the ceiling. So the girl climbed out through the hole, crawling along the ventilation duct. As she passed the room of the girl with long hair, the wood made a noise, and she was thus discovered by the girl with long hair. "How did you get up there?" "I'll run out and call the police as soon as I can." "Keep quiet, or you'll blow our cover. Please take me with you. I need to get out quickly to save you. But I might be dead by then. Hurry and take me with you." The girl with long hair kept pleading from below for the girl to take her along, but it was impossible to take her along at that moment. So the girl had to pretend not to hear and continued crawling forward alone. However, the noises made by the girl with long hair alerted the man, so he opened the wooden board and started to climb up to chase the girl. But because the man was too large, he got stuck in the middle of the duct after only a few meters of chase. Meanwhile, the girl finally managed to escape through the duct, and seeing the sunlight she hadn't seen for many days, she felt she was finally free. She relaxed her guard, but just as she sat down to rest, she heard heavy footsteps behind her. Turning around, she saw the psychopathic man had already reached her with a hammer. Just when the girl saw hope, she fell into complete despair in a moment. On the other side, Dongbai finally found the place marked with the red pig logo from the victim girl's memory. But when he and the chief of the major crime unit arrived there, they found the psychopath covered in blood, muttering curses continuously. Then suddenly he fell backwards into a deep pit behind him. As they were in disbelief, they heard the crying of a girl. Following the sound, they found the girl with long hair. But when Dongbai opened another room, he discovered that the daughter of a police station aunt had already died, her face smashed beyond recognition. Dongbai felt very guilty, hating himself for not arriving earlier. Although the case seemed to be over, Dongbai always felt that the suicidal man was not the mastermind. He silently swore in front of the girl's memorial portrait to uncover the truth and find the real culprit. But when they questioned the girl rescued from the bunker, she was unwilling to speak anything, because her loud shouts had led to the capture of the escaping girl, who was killed instead of her. She feared that revealing this would affect her future life. Dongbai seemed to understand the girl's thoughts, telling her not to blame herself, saying that in such a situation, any normal person would have a desire to survive. Touched by Dongbai's words, after a day of reflection, the girl sought out Dongbai and took his hand, allowing him to read her memories. In the memories, Dongbai saw another man, who was the leader of Korea's largest church. He brainwashed people daily, but that day, while brainwashing new followers, one of the followers suddenly grabbed him, and that person was Dongbai. After reading the church leader's memories, Dongbai was filled with rage. He couldn't believe that a person who was supposed to lead his followers towards the light was a merciless killer. Dongbai raised his hand to strike him, but was stopped by the chief commissioner. The chief commissioner ordered Dongbai to stand down immediately, as they had no evidence other than the memories in Dongbai's mind to prove the guilt of the cult leader in front of them. However, even though Dongbai had read his memories, the cult leader showed no panic. In Korea, he had tens of millions of followers, and many high-ranking officials and celebrities were under his influence. The next day, Dongbai received a summons for a parliamentary hearing. A member of parliament, during an interview with the media, stated that he would personally interrogate Dongbai on why he slandered the cult leader. Seeing such an ordeal, an old colleague from the police, who was always cautious, could no longer stand by. He urged Dongbai to submit his resignation voluntarily so he wouldn't have to attend the parliamentary review and could instead find a prestigious company that appreciated him to work in jobs that paid billions in annual salary. Although his old colleague's advice was sensible, Dongbai couldn't bear to let the girls die in vain. So, after venting their frustrations, they gathered again to analyze the case. Dongbai, recalling the cult leader's memories, noted that he always destroyed evidence after committing his crimes. However, Dongbai felt sure that some traces must still remain at the scene. Thus, Dongbai and the chief commissioner returned to the scene, where they discovered a drain pipe in the room where the girls were held. Using an extendable surveillance device, they found a plastic glove in the pipe, but because the pipe was too deep, they couldn't retrieve it. Just as the female chief commissioner was about to call the inspection team to clear it, they heard the sound of heavy machinery approaching. Rushing outside, they saw a construction crew with a concrete truck preparing to fill the tunnel with concrete. The person in charge, sent by the inspectorate, held a will from the deceased landowner, claiming the ground was unstable and posed a risk, intending to fill the tunnel. Dongbai wanted to intervene, but was overwhelmed by the sheer number of opponents and forcefully restrained on the ground. He could only watch helplessly as the concrete was poured into the tunnel, slowly sealing the pipe with the rubber glove inside. When Dongbai woke up again, he was in a hospital bed, and today he was to face the parliamentary trial. However, at the trial, Dongbai did not admit to any wrongdoing. Instead, in front of national reporters, he spoke the truth. "I know who the real culprit behind the Hammer murders is." The perpetrator first selected a group of beautiful young girls for financial support, and when they grew up, he used their downfall as an excuse to incite their abduction. He then told them that they could be redeemed if they were willing to submit to him physically. In this way, he violated the victims and brutally killed the girls with a hammer. Think carefully before you act. The guy's name is Park Chi-dan. He is the well-known cult leader, Park Chi-dan. Despite many trying to stop him at the scene, Dongbai still spoke the truth. Both colleagues working together thought he was doomed this time. The judges at the scene threw paper at him and detained him to prevent him from speaking further. However, on the night Dongbai exposed the true face of the cult leader, the leader mysteriously died at the prayer site. Although many followers witnessed everything, when asked by the police, they claimed they knew nothing. With no other option, the chief commissioner had to ask Dongbai for help again. But when Dongbai scanned the memories of the followers at the scene, he found that they only saw the image of the cult leader lying in a pool of blood. Their memories did not include the murderer. What exactly happened here last night? Why did this situation arise? Dongbai was baffled. Because Dongbai said he did not see any memories of the murderer in the followers' minds, the chief commissioner suddenly suspected Dongbai was lying. She recalled what Dongbai had said to the cult leader a few days earlier. "You are less than a dog, you murderer, and the devil who will push you into hell is me. Just wait. Hell is about to descend upon you." The chief commissioner suggested that if these people had lost that part of their memory, it indicated that someone had erased the memory fragments in their brains, and the only person capable of such a feat was Dongbai. Dongbai was left speechless by her accusation because currently, in Korea, he was the only one with superpowers. To clear his own suspicion, he decided to investigate the truth himself. While Dongbai and his partner were searching for clues in the cult leader's office, a passing worker told them, "The painting on this wall wasn't like this a few months ago. When I brought it in, the woman in the painting was holding a knife, but now she's holding a hammer." This statement immediately enlightened Dongbai. Following the clues, they found the place where the painting had been sent from. But when they entered the building, they saw an even more bizarre scene. A deceased woman was lying on a drawing table, her body mummified and her limbs bound with chains. There was an empty bottle of paraquat on the floor. Based on their years of experience solving cases, they deduced that the woman, due to being bound and without water, had become so thirsty that she drank the paraquat given to her by the perpetrator. While Dongbai and the veteran detective were speculating about the woman's cause of death, another partner had already identified her. This woman, named An Tian, had lost her parents as a child, and the government had specially hired a professor to establish a support system, which included the woman among those helped. Thus, Dongbai and others went to the nursing home where the professor resided. By this time, the professor was already elderly and suffering from severe dementia. He did not respond to Dongbai's questions. The only thing left to do was to perform a memory scan on him. In the professor's memories, Dongbai saw not only the woman as a child, but also a painting she was working on, which, astonishingly, was the same as the one in the woman's room. When Dongbek arrived at the parking lot and saw the keyhole on the car door, he associated the special arch in the girl's drawing with the scene she had witnessed through the keyhole, her father being murdered. Subsequently, Dongbai went to the chief of police and asked him to pull up the surveillance footage near the deceased woman's home. Unexpectedly, Dongbai saw that a few hours before they discovered the body, a TV station reporter's car had already visited the area. The woman had been dead for several days, yet even they didn't know. How did the TV station find out? Dongbak suspected that the TV station might be involved, so the next day, they went there to inquire. However, the reporter who had been at the scene was evasive and refused to tell the truth. Under the threat from the chief of police, they finally confessed that the information had come from higher up. When they approached the president of the TV station in his office to ask where he got the information, he refused to speak on the grounds that the informant's information needed to remain confidential. Having hit a dead end with the president, they decided to speak to a photographer who had been active 20 years ago. However, the photographer also refused to discuss past events and declined Dongbek's offer to scan his memories. Left with no other option, the chief of police secured a search warrant for the photographer's home, where they discovered an altar filled with bones, chilling to the core. They initially thought these were the bones of victims and immediately arrested the photographer. However, a medical examination revealed that the bones were of animals, forcing them to release the photographer. Upon his release, the photographer ominously told Dongbai that someone would die tonight because of him, as the victim was someone whose memories Dongbai had read. He urged Dongbai to prevent the tragedy. Sure enough, that evening, the police received a report of a homicide. The victim had had their memory read by Dongbai a few days earlier. When the police arrived at the crime scene, a camera was conspicuously placed on the ground, and it contained a video recorded by the murderer himself. This blatant challenge shocked all the officers present. Except for the camera, no other clues were found. Now, their primary suspect was the recently released photographer. However, when they checked the tracking video after the suspect's release, it showed that he had been at home the entire time, never leaving. To gather evidence, they followed him and noticed at an intersection that the suspect seemed to have a special relationship with a Boeing child. When the children gathered around him to play, he began reading their memories by placing his hand on their heads. In the memories, Dongbai discovered that the man often used the children's phones. So they deliberately stopped the mother's car using a police car, and Dongbai, using his identity as a super detective, had his partner take a group photo with the children's phone, while secretly installing tracking software. A Trojan program for monitoring was injected. When the child got home, the man, as usual, took the child's phone and downloaded a chat software used by hackers. However, when he was about to log in, he hesitated as if he knew that the phone was being monitored. Eventually, he pressed the exit button and did not log in. The police had hoped to check whom he was contacting through the phone, but they underestimated the man's vigilance. At that moment, they saw through surveillance that the president of the TV station, suspect number 2, suddenly visited the man. While the two were talking, Dongbai and the chief of police also arrived there. The chief of police hoped to get some clues from the president, but was instead humiliated by him. Dongbai heard the president, a grown man, insulting women, and immediately got furious, grabbing the president's clothes, ready to hit him. The photographer, seeing Dongbai touch the president, became extremely fearful in an instant and warned, "Don't touch others carelessly. Do you want me to hit you too? Don't you know? The common feature of the 3 people who are about to die because of you is that you've touched them." Then, the photographer, as if possessed, uttered some strange words. "Kill him." It will be tragic. After the moon rises, the people you have touched will tragically die. One has already died, and the remaining two should be dealt with. It seemed from the photographer's words that the next person to die would be the president. But Dongbai didn't take it seriously, suspecting that the photographer's bizarre behavior was just an act. Then they went to the home of the photographer's young neighbor. From the boy's father, they learned that the photographer had a secret base outside. Thus, they went to this secret base that night. On the outside, it looked like an abandoned warehouse, but inside was a long cave stretching dozens of meters, filled with various clothes and masks. Pushing open the wooden board above their heads, the chief of police discovered that it connected directly to the flower room in the photographer's house. They then understood why the photographer hadn't left home, yet the predicted murders occurred. It turned out the photographer had used this secret passage to sneak out and commit the murders. Although they discovered this secret, they were still one step too late. At that moment, a man was already wearing a helmet, riding a motorcycle towards the next victim's home. Dongbai also guessed that the photographer must be out committing the murders, but with so many people he had recently touched, he couldn't determine who the photographer would target next. While the two were still in the car using the process of elimination to select the most likely next victim, the identity of the second victim emerged. It was the TV station president whom Dongbai had touched earlier that day at the photographer's house. Cornered, the president's last words were, "Don't you know who I am?" From the president's words, it seemed that the killer was not someone he recognized. After killing the president, the killer immediately jumped out of the second-floor window, but just a second after his cool escape, he was quickly apprehended by the police who had just arrived, with guns drawn. In the end, Dongbai could not withstand the pressure from the red-eyed figure in the photographer's memory and fainted on the spot. When Dongbai woke up again, it was already 4 days later. His partner informed him that the photographer had been taken into custody but had been released without charges after 48 hours due to lack of evidence. However, the police were still tailing him continuously. She saw that the elevator had stopped at the 8th floor, so after reporting the situation, she quickly changed her clothes and followed up the stairs. When the female officer reached the 8th floor, she discovered it was a coffee shop, but the photographer was not there. Just as she thought she had lost him and was about to take the elevator down, the photographer suddenly appeared inside the elevator when the doors opened. The female officer was so startled that she froze on the spot. To avoid blowing her cover, she forced herself to enter the elevator calmly, but once inside, she was so nervous that she forgot to press the button for a floor. "Looks like you're heading to the parking lot," he said. "What?" When they arrived at the parking lot, the photographer spoke again. "But where are you going?" The female officer then realized that something was wrong and quickly searched her bag for her gun to prepare for self-defense. But the next second, the photographer lunged at her. A scream was soon heard from the parking lot. When her colleagues arrived at the scene, she had already forgotten what had just happened. Meanwhile, the photographer was eerily watching the neighbor's child at the vegetable market. When the child's mother finished paying for the groceries, the child disappeared. She thought the child was just playing hide and seek and started calling out his name, but there was no response. She searched around but could not find her child. At that moment, the woman remembered her child telling her that he had seen the neighbor, the photographer uncle. So, she hurried home to confront the photographer and ask if he had seen her child, but the photographer did not answer. Instead, he bizarrely told the woman that all of this was because of her mother's sins and began to move his hand toward her. Luckily, at that moment, Dongbai appeared and pulled the woman away. However, as Dongbai pulled the woman, he unexpectedly saw her childhood memories. In the woman's memory, Dongbai saw the photographer committing a murder. Seeing Dongbai, the photographer just sneered and turned to go home for tea. After stabilizing the woman, Dongbai followed him and questioned where he had hidden the child. The photographer then said that since Dongbai had also touched the child would be punished and become the third victim. With a sinister laugh, the photographer walked into his house. Dongbai then went to the woman's home and asked about her childhood. From her, he learned that the photographer was her stepfather and that her mother was likely murdered by him. The woman recounted seeing her stepfather with a knife in the woods near their home when she was 9 years old, brutally killing the family dog. But when he came back home, he found Xianghua sitting on the ground crying. It turned out that the family dog was no longer alive. The photographer hurriedly took the dog to the pet hospital. but after the doctor discovered poison in the dog, he said there was nothing more he could do. Since then, he suspected that his girlfriend had been poisoning his food. So, when his girlfriend was at work, he fed the food she prepared to a rooster, which died shortly after consuming it. To uncover why his girlfriend did this, he installed a listening device in her pager while she was asleep. The next day, he discovered that she had gotten into another man's car after leaving the hospital from work. He followed them and arrived at their building, where through the listening device, besides hearing sounds of his girlfriend being intimate with another man, he learned that his girlfriend was with him solely for his wealth and even planned to poison her own daughter. In a fit of rage, he killed them both, marking the beginning of his fall into darkness. However, the recent deaths were not his doing, but that of someone called Eraser. The photographer was merely a pawn of Eraser, who had also erased the photographer's memories related to him, leaving behind only the name. But last time Dongbai scanned the photographer's memories, he didn't see these because Eraser had caught Dongbai's shoe through a sewer grate and manipulated his memories. A man was fixated on a necklace, wanting to buy it as a final gift for his girlfriend, who not only did not love him, but also poisoned his food to inherit his wealth and share it with her ex-husband. Upon discovering this, the man hanged both of them alive in the forest, thus becoming a tool for murder. 20 years later, during his trial, he bit off his defense attorney's ear, grabbed a pen, and threatened the lawyer's neck, but instead slashed his own throat. He did this to play along with the police, creating an opportunity to be treated in the hospital and lure Eraser to silence him. Dongbai, impersonating the photographer, set a trap in the hospital room waiting for Eraser. Meanwhile, the real photographer and the chief of police monitored the situation backstage. Yet, the person who walked into the hospital room was not Eraser, but the photographer's foster daughter, Shang Hua, who said she came after receiving news of her stepfather's critical condition. She had intended to see him one last time, unaware of what was happening. Dongbai scanned Shang Hua's memories and found she wasn't lying, realizing he had been misled. Meanwhile, a SWAT officer holding a gun on the photographer quietly pressed a jammer, instantly cutting off the signal to the monitoring center. As an assistant went out to check the cause, the photographer sensed something wrong with the SWAT officer because he smelled a familiar scent. As the officer slowly raised his gun towards the chief of police, the photographer quickly stood up, grabbed a hanger, and struck at him. "Don't move! Kill him, shoot! He is Eraser! Shoot! Don't hesitate! What's your name? Take off your mask and tell us your name. Do you want to die?" As Eraser stood up, intending to resist, the chief of police shot him twice, knocking him to the ground. Just as the chief was about to approach and capture him, she was stunned by a stun grenade thrown by Eraser. When she woke up again, Eraser was already pointing a pistol at her forehead. Just as Eraser was about to shoot, the photographer intervened once again, blocking him. During the struggle, the photographer was stabbed several times by Eraser, who then fled the scene. However, when he reached the rooftop intending to escape, he encountered Dongbai, who had chased after him. Dongbai threw down a handcuff for him to put on himself, but Eraser instead jumped off the building and ultimately managed to escape. The photographer died here in his attempt to save the chief of police. Due to the failure of this operation, the chief of police was dismissed from her position, and Dongbai was thrust into the eye of public scrutiny. Just as they were getting closer to the truth, they lost their authority to investigate the case. When the chief of police finished her resignation and returned home, she found Dongbai there. Dongbai, having previously scanned the chief's memories and learned her home's security code, had let himself in. Dongbai invited the chief to continue the investigation privately, firmly promising to capture Eraser. The next morning, they received news of a tragedy involving the head of the serious crime unit and his son, and immediately went to the hospital. The unit head, seeking revenge for his son, requested Dongbai to scan his memories. In the memories, Dongbai discovered that Eraser was indeed the perpetrator this time. During the capture, the unit head managed to pull off one of Eraser's buttons. When the unit head showed them the button, the chief of police noticed it bore a special insignia of the fire department. This led them to shift their focus to the fire department. At the fire department headquarters, they learned that the button was from a uniform commemorating their 20th anniversary. The secretary brought a list, revealing that only 8 people had this uniform, and only 2 were still at the fire department, the chief himself and team leader Liu. In conversations, it was revealed that Team Leader Lu had participated in the rescue of a college student gas poisoning incident 20 years ago. He arrived at the scene to find a police officer already there, which was unusual, as the fire department should have received the call first. Why was a police officer at the scene before them? And why did he leave before the fire department arrived without helping in the rescue? This immediately raised suspicions for the chief of police. They speculated that this police officer could very well be Eraser. However, how could his uniform have this button? Just then, the secretary mentioned that she had encountered Team Leader Lu when she was retrieving the list. Team Leader Lu mentioned that his uniform had been missing for a few days. It was sent to the dry cleaners and hasn't been picked up yet. Could someone have stolen Team Leader Lu's clothes? Dongbai wanted the secretary to call Team Leader Lu over to verify, but the secretary said that Team Leader Lu had already left to attend to a new gas leak incident in Pandong. Why another gas leak incident? It's too coincidental. The chief of police speculated that it might very well be a trap set by Eraser. If it was a trap, Team Leader Lu could become the next victim. Dongbai immediately ordered them to notify Team Leader Lu to return, but Team Leader Lu refused to come back because he did not want to be seen as a deserter. Since he wouldn't return, Dongbai and the others decided to go to the scene themselves. At the scene of the accident and rescue, Team Leader Lu heard someone calling for help and hurriedly followed the sound to find the trapped person. However, when he tried to pull the trapped person out, he realized it was a mannequin, and the cries for help were coming from a speaker. As he was puzzled by this setup, a person wearing a gas mask approached him. This person then took out scissors and cut Team Leader Lu's oxygen hose. Suddenly deprived of oxygen, Team Leader Lu had to remove his mask. He tried to use his radio to call for help, but the attacker snatched it away and threw it on the ground. Soon after, he succumbed to the poison and passed out. Fortunately, Dongbai arrived just in time to carry him out. On the way to the hospital, Dongbai also got into the ambulance and, exhausted, performed a memory scan on Team Leader Lu. Finally, in Team Leader Lu's memories, he saw that the attacker's right arm had a tear injury. The next day, the chief of police's subordinate from the intelligence department told her that one of the high school students who survived the gas leak 20 years ago was named Wu Seok-do. Wu Seok-do had been working under Congressman Kang Ji-eun, and Kang Ji-eun's wife had been kidnapped and disappeared the previous night. So they immediately went to the congressman's house, but only the housekeeper was there. The surveillance footage showed that the congressman's wife was kidnapped in the parking lot, and the housekeeper mentioned that the kidnapper also had a wound on their right hand. This matched what Dongbai had seen in the firefighter's memory the previous night. However, while the investigation was underway, a corrupt prosecutor arrived at the scene intending to arrest Dongbai, as Dongbai had been reading others' memories illegally, which was a punishable offense. The prosecutor was very aggressive and showed no mercy. At the scene of the accident and rescue, Team Leader Lu heard someone calling for help and hurriedly followed the sound to find the trapped person. However, when he tried to pull the trapped person out, he realized it was a mannequin, and the cries for help were coming from a speaker. As he was puzzled by this setup, a person wearing a gas mask approached him. This person then took out scissors and cut Team Leader Lu's oxygen hose. Suddenly deprived of oxygen, Team Leader Lu had to remove his mask. He tried to use his radio to call for help, but the attacker snatched it away and threw it on the ground. Soon after, he succumbed to the poison and passed out. Fortunately, Dongbai arrived just in time to carry him out. On the way to the hospital, Dongbai also got into the ambulance and, exhausted, performed a memory scan on Team Leader Lu. Finally, in Team Leader Lu's memories, he saw that the attacker's right arm had a tear injury. The next day, the chief of police's subordinate from the intelligence department told her that one of the high school students who survived the gas leak 20 years ago was named Wu Seok-do. Wu Seok-do had been working under Congressman Kang Ji-eun, and Kang Ji-eun's wife had been kidnapped and disappeared the previous night. So they immediately went to the congressman's house, but only the housekeeper was there. The surveillance footage showed that the congressman's wife was kidnapped in the parking lot, and the housekeeper mentioned that the kidnapper also had a wound on their right hand. This matched what Dongbai had seen in the firefighter's memory the previous night. However, while the investigation was underway, a corrupt prosecutor arrived at the scene intending to arrest Dongbai, as Dongbai had been reading others' memories illegally, which was a punishable offense. The prosecutor was very aggressive and showed no mercy. After getting out of the car and searching around, they heard a ringing phone not far away. Following the sound, they found themselves at an abandoned bus where they located the ringing phone in a drawer. Answering it, they discovered it was Woo Seok-do calling. He claimed he was not the murderer and explained that he had been tracking a racer as well. He revealed he had identified the person with the injured right arm and that the person's photo was hidden behind a red button. Dongbai picked up the red button from a desk and pressed it. A photo of a man with an injured arm appeared on the bus's television, and shockingly, the man in the photo was their own police department's director. They now understood why the director had been trying to fire them and stop their investigations. In a rush, Dongbai stormed into the director's home, lifted up his sleeve, and indeed found a scar on his arm. Dongbai restrained the director and was about to scan his memory when he saw in the director's memory that the director was also a victim. He had been beaten and left on the ground, and the person who appeared before the director was Dongbai himself. The director, with a smile, told Dongbai, "You are the one who killed 7 people 20 years ago at Shinbi." "No, it's not me," Dongbai protested. Although he had lost his memories before the age of 9, he couldn't believe he was the murderer. After spending a long time with Dongbai, the chief of police also didn't believe Dongbai was the killer. In order to catch the real culprit quickly, they gathered again to clear their thoughts. Soon, they realized that the previous day, when Woo Seok-do had taken the female secretary hostage, she had deliberately walked down the steps, a move clearly intended to help Woo Seok-do escape. They immediately went to the congressman's house and confronted the female secretary. After showing her the video, the secretary finally confessed and revealed Woo Seok-do's next plans. Following the secretary's leads, they drove to a resort hotel. Upon arrival, they saw that the director had arranged for heavy security there. It turned out that the director, fearing his family might be harmed by a racer, had brought his wife and son there for protection. To catch Woo Seok-do and uncover the truth, Dongbai and the chief of police also arrived at the director's location. The chief informed the director that Eraser would target his family next, but the director arrogantly insisted he could protect them himself. Just as he finished speaking, the lights in the hallway went out, and one by one, the guards in the hallway collapsed. Even those who went out to scout the situation soon passed out. Then, a person wearing a gas mask walked in, and the moment he opened the bedroom door, the chief of police and Dongbai held him up at gunpoint. Just as he was about to resist, he was shot down. Dongbai removed his mask and discovered that the man was Woo Seok-do. Immediately, he placed his hand on Woo Seok-do's neck to read his memories. However, at that moment, Director Lao Liu, who was behind them, stunned them with an electric baton. Just as the director was about to shoot them there, the timely arrival of the rescue team made him abandon the idea of killing them. Afterwards, Dongbai and his colleagues were carried into a van by the director's men. Fortunately, Dongbai's old partner noticed in time, hijacked the vehicle, and rescued the two. When Dongbai woke up, he immediately realized that Woo Seok-do's appearance was just a trap. Dongbai immediately called to warn the director that his son was in danger, but it was too late. By then, Eraser had already disguised himself as a member of the rescue team and completed the assassination. When the director arrived at the hotel room, he found his son had been stabbed numerous times. Fortunately, they discovered this in time, and his son was saved after being rushed to the hospital. On the other hand, Dongbai told the chief of police that he had discovered in Woo Seok-do's memories that Congressman Kang Ji-eun was also involved. He saw how Kang Ji-eun, along with others, had beaten Woo Seok-do's brother to death. So, they went to Kang Ji-eun's mansion. When Dongbai saw the memorial portrait on the wall, he instantly understood everything. It turned out that he had previously discovered in a photographer's memory that the photographer was the illegitimate son of a congressman. On the day the photographer was supposed to meet his father, he was injured by Kang Ji-eun's mother. And the reason Kang Ji-eun managed to kill Woo Seok-do was surely because his mother had handled the situation. Thus, the reason Eraser used the photographer and Woo Seok-do was because they shared a common enemy, Kang Ji-eun's mother, Hwang Pil-seon. Dongbai told Hwang Pil-seon that Eraser's ultimate goal was to seek revenge on her. He wanted Hwang Pil-seon to reveal the truth to help them solve the case and rescue her daughter-in-law, thus saving their family. However, Hwang Pil-seon was ruthless. She showed no concern for her daughter-in-law being kidnapped. instead wanting to use her tragic situation to gather votes for her son before the congressional election. Dongbai attempted to forcibly read her memories, but was pushed away by a bodyguard. The next day, when Kang Ji-eun held a press conference trying to garner sympathy and votes, Dongbai blended in with the reporters and forcibly read his memories. In Kang Ji-eun's memories, Dongbai finally saw the root of the entire issue. After reading the memories, Dongbai knocked him to the ground and left the scene. Outside, Dongbai immediately called the chief of police. He informed him that the victims from 20 years ago were not only Woo Seok-do's brother, but also a girl who was sexually assaulted by 7 or 8 people and died as a result. That girl was the daughter of the current fire department chief, which made him the most likely candidate for being Eraser. After the girl was assaulted, she became mentally unstable and was treated in a hospital. Corrupt police officers who came to investigate threatened her to act as if nothing had happened. Even the medical examination was falsified to claim she hadn't been raped. Eventually, unable to bear the humiliation, the girl chose to hang herself. 20 years later, her father, seeking revenge, abducted. Initially, the man leading the group, Kang Ji-eun's wife, wanted to kill Kang Ji-eun's beloved as revenge. After Dongbai scanned Kang Ji-eun's memories and learned all this, he immediately deduced that the kidnapper of Kang Ji-eun's wife was the father of the girl who was humiliated 20 years ago. Quickly, Dongbai and the chief of police traced him to his hiding place. But when they arrived, the fire chief seemed to have been waiting for them for a long time. The chief of police asked where Kang Ji-eun's wife was, and the fire chief pointed to a suitcase hanging next to him, indicating that she was inside it. When Dongbai called out his name, he stopped pretending, took off his mask, and revealed his identity. Dongbai advised him that even if he sought revenge, it should be done in a legal and rational manner. However, Chief Liu felt that in South Korea, a society dominated by chaebols, there was no such thing as fairness and justice. Through the conversation with Chief Liu, the chief of police realized that his decisive style of action was completely different from that of Eraser, leading her to feel that this person was not Eraser. Seeing this, Dongbai devised a plan. He agreed with Chief Liu's method of revenge, but before killing Kang Ji-eun's wife, he wanted to read her memories. Dongbai said that this was the only way to find Kang Ji-eun's weaknesses and defeat him and his mother. After hearing this, Chief Liu immediately rejected Dongbai's proposal. From this, they deduced that there was actually no one in the suitcase. Then, Dongbai rushed forward and grabbed Chief Liu by the neck. Immediately, he read in the chief's memories that Kang Ji-eun's wife was actually held in this building. Upon hearing this, the chief of police immediately went downstairs to search. However, while Dongbai and Chief Liu were grappling with each other, they were ambushed, and Chief Liu was hit by a bullet. Dongbai was also shot in the shoulder just as he turned around, and Chief Liu, losing his balance, fell off the rooftop. The attacker was the corrupt police officer who had threatened Chief Liu's daughter 20 years ago. Fortunately, the major crime unit arrived in time and shot him, allowing Dongbai to narrowly escape with his life. Meanwhile, while Dongbai was receiving treatment in the hospital, the real Eraser left him a note arranging a private meeting. Soon after, Dongbai arrived at the designated location. As soon as they met, Eraser took off her gloves and revealed her identity. She was the personal secretary to Congressman Kang Ji-eun. "Now, I will tell you all the truths," she said to Dongbai. Her real identity, Shu Yishu revealed, was actually Dongbai's older sister Julan. She extended her hand for Dongbai to scan her memories, saying that this was the only way for Dongbai to know the full truth. When Dongbai entered her memories, he indeed saw the memories from before he was 9 years old, when he had a close relationship with his sister. They had a harmonious life as a family of 3. But one day, his sister suddenly received a phone call from her best friend Liu Ya-ying, and this friend was the very same one who had been the girl whom Kang Ji-eun and his group had raped, called Dongbai's sister, pleading for her to come to the hospital to see her. When the sister arrived at the hospital where her friend was, she handed her a tape recorder. However, her friend urged her to leave immediately. Seeing her friend's distress, she knew something terrible had happened. The sister told her friend that if she had any traumatic memories, she could help erase them. But her friend responded that even if the memories were erased, what had happened could not be undone, and she refused the sister's offer. Devastated, the friend later committed suicide by hanging herself during the prime of her youth. After attending her friend's funeral, the sister coincidentally encountered the corrupt police officer who had threatened her friend. From his memories, she saw the doctors and police officers involved in the incident. Consequently, at the age of 17, she began plotting her revenge. She received a package from her friend before her death, which contained the tape recorder she had given her, and inside it was a recorded testimony of her friend's report. For revenge, she used a photographer to kidnap the police officer who had been responsible for giving the orders. However, Kang Ji-eun had gone abroad for studies and was not present. After bringing several people to a warehouse, she erased all their memories, causing them to panic and turn on each other. Just then, a person dressed in black broke into their home to steal the tape recorder. Dongbai and his mother encountered him when they returned home, leading to his mother being murdered by the intruder with a hammer. A young Dongbai ran out to seek help and met his sister halfway. Through reading Dongbai's memories, the sister witnessed the brutal scene of their mother's murder. Triggered by this event, Dongbai accessed his sister's memories for the first time and saw the people in the warehouse killing each other. After reading the memories, the sister told Dongbai to wait at their uncle's house while she returned home to save their mother. However, Dongbai followed his sister's memories to the warehouse. This is why Dongbai saw himself as the eraser in the director's memories. Overwhelmed by the shock and newly mastering his powers, Dongbai accidentally erased his own memories, revealing that he also had the ability to erase memories. Additionally, his sister told him that they could fabricate memories at will. Although she acknowledged that such powers were terrifying, she believed that erasing memories was insufficient to punish evil forces, so she had to seek revenge in her own way. After finishing her explanation, the sister lifted the lid of a metal barrel behind her, revealing the murderer sent by Kang Ji-eun 20 years ago to kill their mother. The sister handed Dongbai a gun and urged him to kill the man to avenge their mother. However, Dongbai couldn't bring himself to do it. Watching her hesitant brother, the sister snatched the gun and shot the man in the barrel herself. After dealing with the murderer, she was about to commit suicide with the gun, but fortunately, the chief of police and others arrived in time and shot her in the arm to stop her. The next day, using his sister's memories, Dongbai found incriminating evidence against Kang Ji-eun and others. As a result, Kang Ji-eun and his mother were both sent to prison. Unable to endure the hardships of prison, Kang Ji-eun committed suicide there. After dealing with these wrongdoers, Dongbai used his superpowers to erase all the bad memories from his sister's mind to allow her to live a normal life. At the end of the story, Dongbai returned to his original job and continued working as a celebrity detective, while Han Sunmi resigned from her position as the chief of police to become a lawyer. Thank you everyone for enjoying this drama. We'll see you next time.